Welcome to the Airiam podcast. This podcast covers topics related to cyber and human resilience. We're in the series called the Teach Me series of the Airiam podcast, and myself, Art Ocain, and Kevin are here to lead that, and we have as a guest Patrick Gorman on our podcast, and we're going to go through some ideas about security testing and resilience today. But the whole Teach Me series is really about teaching IT and cybersecurity professionals really answers to their questions, whether it's architectural questions or how to continue their cyber and IT career. And so part of Airiam is to help the rest of the IT admins out there continuing to grow in our careers. So Pat, thanks for being on again. And Kevin, I love seeing you as always, and I'm glad you were able to get your coffee. I'm pounding an energy drink as usual. So let's just jump in. And Pat has a lot of kind of pen testing experience. And Kevin can talk all day about security, and I'm from the defensive side, so I'm thinking about incident response and really kind of the blue team of seeing that pen test go off. Let's talk about really how that security testing can kind of verify the resilience of an organization. So if we're thinking about resilience, I think about the ability of an organization to resist attack, to bend without breaking. And if it does break, to stand back up really quickly. If an attack is successful, how do we recover quickly so that company can keep making money, keep serving clients, still have their core services back up and running? So when you're in a pen test situation or when you're in a red team situation, I know those are different scenarios, but if you're in an offensive scenario, how would you, Pat, consider that kind of like related to resiliency testing an organization?
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously, at the end of the day, you want to test what you have in your organization. We want to make sure if, God forbid, we get something like ransomware or a phishing attack, we can have that DFIR in place in order for us to recover from that incident. And how can we do that, right? We can have, purple team engagements where us as defenders and red teamers walk into an organization saying, hey, Mr. Organization or Miss Organization, whatever, we're going to go ahead and do a purple team engagement. We're going to test your blue team and see, okay, we're going to, run these methodologies from an internal assessment or an adversary's perspective. And now we can see where, if you're running CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, or whatever tool that you're using, Microsoft Sentinel, Splunk, etc., where we're gonna, where you guys are gonna catch us, right? When we're running these tools, and we can collaborate. And that's why I think it's important to have purple team engagements. And if those that are listening aren't familiar with purple team, because everyone always hears about red team, blue team a lot, and they leave out the love for the purple. Purple teaming meaning me as a red teamer, Art as a blue teamer, we can come together and harden the organization. Right? We can utilize our skill sets to team up for that day or that engagement, and we can make the world a better place. And then obviously there's a full, like you said, there's difference between red teaming and pen testing, but from a pen testing's perspective, maybe Art may not know about our engagement. Maybe we got this engagement from, whomever is in the organization to test Art's defenses and see if he's able to defend against our adversary or TTPs or, whatever the case may be. So yeah, that's that.
Awesome. Yeah, Kevin, I know a lot of times, with that kind of financial industry or the big corporate experiences that you had before doing kind of like white glove service, things like that. Those are the kind of organizations that a pen test kind of could be really effective in testing kind of the effectiveness of their controls. one of the verticals we focus on is financial services, and I know that really, despite regulatory requirements, there can be a lot of weaknesses in financial services. When we're thinking about kind of pen testing and resilience testing against financial services, do you think there's any kind of weaknesses or whether it's cultural or controls, that financial services would be particularly prone to?
For me, my personal experience from when I worked in a lot of these companies that I worked at, it's a very big like hedge funds that I worked at. They typically do training. So like literally like when you're a new hire and you're onboarding, the first training that we do that and people hate it because because when it comes to cybersecurity training, they hate it because like you can't skip it. So you have to watch the whole video. You can't just click next, next, next and skip the whole thing. Versus like actual social engineering training or training on phishing or just any type of cybersecurity training, you have to do that type of training. But then at the end of the day, like and I always say like our weakest link is the user, the end user. So like you can educate the user all you want at the end of the day, right? But like if a user clicks on a Starbucks coffee, a free Starbucks coffee, and then they click on it and then they get caught, obviously, you really can't do much, right? You can just train them as much as you want and they click on something. So that's just my personal experience. Like you have to educate the user. You have to actually tell the user, don't click on this, don't click on that. And then they have a sense of urgency. Like you may get like a text message from a CEO or a CFO or a CIO, and they're not real. It's just a fake email or a fake text message, and you just happen to click on it by accident because you don't know what's going on. You're just trying to do your job, right? So a lot of executives they feel that way. They feel like they're trying to do their job, but then they don't know that they're running into a trap or they're running into something to be vulnerable. So that's a real thing if that makes sense. So
I can sprinkle some stuff on that if you want. So how we can mitigate that and what I've done, what I do currently, like I have a few, obviously with group policy, you're a group policy, you know about group policy, we can create links within, whatever Edge or whatever favorites. And we can say, okay, Mr. CEO, you have a link. You could put this into a sandbox, maybe scan URL or any run or whatever kind of, virus total virus, whatever. I always get those things mixed up. Um, you can actually just throw it in there and say, see if this thing is malicious, sort of like a malware sandbox, right? And because yeah, we're never going to prevent all these users from clicking on links. That's never. You can give them all the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that you want in training, and they're not gonna listen. You're gonna have those pabs, put it into some kind of environment, Joe Sandbox or whatever, and put this and analyze that email thread and use tools, like, Fish, and then you can go through like Cofense or whatever kind of tools that you utilize in your organization. But yeah, I think sprinkling a little bit of that on the cake, I think that'll be beneficial.
Oh yeah, I think giving them the resources to be able to at least check out the validity
Mm.
of some of that stuff. Some of them probably won't take the time and still click the link. So that's the solution there is to put in other controls to prevent that person from killing everything.
Hmm.
So is does that person have administrative controls? If they get phished, is MFA on? So at least they only just gave their creds, but they
Hmm.
still have to have an authenticator. So there's still things that we need to layer in to not make Pat's job super easy, so that all he has to do is phish you and in a pen test, and it's game over.
Hmm. Exactly. And obviously you know, that's definitely like OTP is definitely a layer of security, but there's ways to bypass that, right? There's ways to do sessions hijacking, um, token impersonation. Like if I have some kind of access to your machine, like a low privilege user or whatever, if there's MFA, if I can't get into your email, but maybe we can do some kind of a browser hijacking or something like that using an application called Beef. So this is definitely some, tools that we can utilize to try to, bypass that. And obviously cloning, like, so say for example, we're doing an external recon. We found your we harvest your credentials, etc. We go to your, OWA online, or, if it's using Okta, whatever. I want to see, okay, it has maybe a last four digits of your, I want to say social, your phone number, right? So now I can say, okay, Art's phone number's last, four is 4444. And now I can say, okay, let's go on to his LinkedIn. Maybe he has his phone number out there. Maybe look for Art's number, Now I can spoof that. I can easily spoof your phone number, right? So we can do stuff like that and have those, SIP trunks or those PBX systems that are routing that telephony traffic to, and I do it all the time, right? So there's definitely those kind of moral of the story: you're never protected. It all depends on how much effort you really want to put into it in order for you to harvest those or hack that company or organization or user.
Yeah, Pat, like, I 100% agree with you. Like when I and this is just it's based on a true story. I'm not gonna make this up. So, you know how you have multi-factor authentication, you have Okta, you have Dual, and I remember one of my friends, like he got hacked, and literally like he kept getting prompted for MFA over and over again, and he got prompted over and over again, and then at the end of the day, he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna allow it on my phone. I don't give a damn anymore at this point. I'm gonna allow it, and boom, that guy got in the system. The guy that was hacking him got in the system because he kept like trying to go into the system. That's just one example. I have another example where I used to play video games, and just like you, like you, I'm talking about like a long time ago. Like I was new to cybersecurity, and I didn't know you could do a DDoS attack or you could do a Smurf attack. So literally, I was playing on a server, and because I love video games, I'm a video game guy, right? So I'm playing on this server, and they're attacking the server. Like I literally can't connect to the server. I can't do anything. Like I'm trying to connect to the server, and it says timeout, 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 timeout. And I'm trying to connect to the server, and it was down for almost an hour and a half, probably more than that. But then I realized that I didn't know that they were doing a DDoS attack on the server. So that's a thing, and the server was completely down. And I didn't know that you could do that. So that's just another example. And then I'll give you one last example, where it's so dumb. Like, Pat, you're gonna get mad at me because of this, because it's a real thing. You're gonna get super angry, actually. Another example, and this is based in my job in the past. So I had someone, again, someone that has high level access, right? So the system admin, he got hacked, and since he got hacked, they don't do things like, how you have RSAT tools. You can download RSAT tools locally on your computer, and then you can run Active Directory from there, and then you can do things from there. Like, that's not what happened. So he got hacked, and he RDPs to the servers without MFA, without anything, like literally nothing. And then the way they hacked him was someone came in with the CEO pretending that they were IT support for the CEO. And then he got access to the CEO's box, and then he got it from the CEO's box. He got access to the system admin's box, and then he was able to connect to the system admin's box. And the crazy part is, their security was so bad that he had the password, the root password, the main password on a notepad on the server. So, so just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's definitely no bueno, and it's still like that, right? Like, we still have those situations happening doing physical engagements, right? When you try to tailgate into an organization. I did a physical engagement last year, which was super, super cool because, you have a drone, you have, do some stuff and see how we can, get into an organization just bypassing their security controls, their man traps, their gates, their cameras, all that fun stuff. And at the end of the day, we can utilize those techniques, whatever you want, to actually bypass, right? Like we can just be nice and tailgate someone into the organization. Like you said, like someone acted as tech support and walked into the organization with the CEO. And once I'm in, like, all you have to do is be nice. And for example, I don't know if I was saying this on live, I don't remember, but this was probably like 20 years ago now, probably. And I was going to pick up a friend, and she was working at a call center down here. And she's like, "Oh, just come to my cubicle, and I have a few more minutes." And then she had a phone call. She got a call in, and I was there, and I was like, I just realized, like, I see all the applications you have open. I can see the data that's, that she's, the account that she was on, that she was supporting. I see everything. Obviously, back then I was just like doing sysadmin stuff. Like I wasn't really doing much security at all. But it was just like, oh man, like not realizing it. Like I just hacked you guys, and I didn't even try it, right? So it's just like the moral of the story is just be careful who you're talking to, who you're letting in, and who's being nice, because yeah, that's definitely something you really have to be careful for.
Yeah, and then my personal experience, this is another real story, Pat. For me was one of my friends, he got hired in a cybersecurity job, and he was applying for a pen testing job. This is very, and I'm telling everyone, please don't do this. What I'm gonna talk about. Please don't do this. But he got hired in his cybersecurity job because he ran OSINT tools on the CEO and on the manager. So literally, when he went for a job interview, we both love cats, Pat. So you have a cat, I have a cat. So he knew the name of his dog, he knew the name of his cat, he knew the name of the family members that were, in his house. And the manager was so impressed by him that he just stopped interviewing him. Like, literally, like, oh, you knew about all the stuff that I did, and you know all my Twitter, my Instagram, my personal information. He literally grabbed data and information from the CEO and from the manager, and they just hired him on the spot. They didn't ask him any technical questions after that. So
Yeah, so there's definitely a gray area, right? Like you said, if it's publicly accessible information, you could do it all day, right? It's just like if you're driving down if you see these videos, and I'm not going to say I did it, I'm not going to deny it or admit to it, but in my, in my years, you can just, freedom of press, right? I could take my camera and just walk around and film in a public accessible, I can go to a courthouse. I can't go into the courtroom, or you can go into a library, or, post office, courthouse, correctional center, whatever you want to do, right? We can walk and we can film. And there was a situation where, what we're doing is, like we're filming, why can't we take a picture of a license plate? It's public, I can see it with my eyes. What's the difference if I see it with my eyes or I take a picture, right? So people don't realize that's not illegal. That's not doing anything wrong. Yeah, it's a little shady. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it's not shady, but it's not illegal. There's a difference, right? So what this person did was not illegal. Like you can go, Google me and probably find my address or do all that stuff. That's not illegal, So that's definitely, I give the kid kudos, right? Because he did his due diligence. I've done that too, right? I've done that. I got emails. I got, I don't go as far as finding out where the guy lives and his daughter's name. That's, that's a little creepy, but you can get that information all publicly, because for my defense, I can say, okay, I want to see who the owner of this company or who the CEO is, and really know what I'm getting myself into, right? I don't want to work for no schmuck, you know? So I want to see, okay, this person's a family guy. This guy is this, that, and the other. He's a good person. So, you know, like kudos, you know? So all I have to say is kudos to that guy that did that. And that's awesome that he got that job. So good for him.
Yeah, that was one of my. I have, okay, he's on Discord. One of my buddies on Discord that I'm friends with. Yeah, he landed a job just by doing it. I didn't do anything crazy. And then we talk about a little bit about red team stuff because I'm sure you remember Mike Miller, right? I talked about Mike Miller a little bit. Mike Miller, he got into a building just because he had a box of Dunkin' Donuts.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like, and I tell everyone like just because like you don't know who's who, right? Like some I could go to we had pizza recently, right? I could go to a building with a box of a large pie, right? And then
Yeah.
pretend that I'm just Joe Schmo, and then they let me in the building. You don't know, right? So that's why I talk about like you have to like really train people, and then it's very important that we are aware of cybersecurity, we're aware of training, we're aware of these things because who knows, like one day Pat, I could go to a random job and just show up with a box of pizza, and then they just let me in for no reason. I just show up and I go to the top building and I have access to all their computers, their servers, and everything, right? So that's why it's important that we do raise cybersecurity awareness and we give people proper training. And I know some people are gonna tell me, but I skipped the videos with training. Some people do that. So it's very important that we do have cybersecurity awareness. And Pat, and I know just to go back to you, Pat, there's physical training too, right? You could literally show up as an AT&T employee or something else, right, to a building if you wanted to do that. And then I think Heath Adams did that. So
Yeah, I've done my share of physical testing, and being being someone that likes to talk, right? I'm not a hermit. I'm not your typical nerd, right? And you met me in person. I'm not. You see me walking down the street. That kid doesn't work on computers, you know. So same, you know, like I could walk into a building, shoot the shit, and just be like, "Yo, like here we go, bomb, bomb," and I'm in your building. I've done it plenty of times. I've done it recently. Um, and just I've went as far as like at a local conference or a local thing that I went to recently. I helped, you know, because I went there just willy nilly I was an exhibitor, but I walked around as a participant, whatever you call, like just someone that's hanging out, you know, um, and I helped someone to their car, and I was able to gather so much information on, and this was a cybersecurity company, right? That they were representing at the expo, and yeah, we're just like shooting the shit, and I got so much information about this person and about the organization, insider stuff, just from being, cool and just like talking smack. So you just have to be really careful of um of what you're doing, and yeah, just be aware. Just be aware. Everyone's not your friend. Everyone's not out there to be cool with you. There might be someone that's has malicious intent. So just be aware.
I think the idea of OPSEC is pretty much gone nowadays. Like, people that have a military background have this kind of operational security mindset. Don't give all the mission details out. So that people, don't know where you're going, stuff like that. So that that some of that stuff's like not just public knowledge. Nowadays with social media, everybody talks about everything. Like, you take pictures, selfies of yourself at work. Like, somebody can look at your feed, look at somebody's Instagram, TikTok, their Facebook, and find out what their office space looks like, who their coworkers are, who their friends are there, and really everything about somebody. And they're complaining about issues at work, they're whatever. You're seeing really everything they deal with. So it's like the idea that it's so easy to social engineer somebody now, because you really have most of the story already, and then you could just walk up and be a pleasant person in a parking lot and pick up the rest of the details like you're talking about.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened with the MGM hack, right? This is like, I'm calling into help desk. I need some help. I need my credentials, uh, reset, and, blah, blah, blah. And then I get my credentials reset, and he didn't even have to do any hack and sack, and he just talked to the person, and he owned MGM, right? So you just have to be really careful, and not everyone's your friend, like I said. And something maybe this is just more of my attitude. Like, if you're asking me, I'm going to ask you, why do you want to know? Like, why do you want to know that? So you can be like that too. Like, I had someone, ask me that recently, like, so what do you do? Where do you work? You don't have to know that. You will never find it. It's not online, right? Because I don't put that stuff online. But for the simple reason, like, you can go out there and think I'm somewhere, but I'm not there, right? And that's the truth. I'm being transparent, right? Maybe this is out there now, but yeah, and you can't go to hunter.io and see my email address. The only I work at InfoSec Pat. That's all you got to know. So anything else behind that, no one knows anything about me. And that's probably the best way to be. And like, I try to be, and I said this on many, many podcasts, right? I was anonymous forever until, the InfoSec Pat movement started coming, right? Like, I didn't put my government name anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't Patrick Gorman anywhere on the internet. Like, I was Pasquale Maroni. Like, I was my Italian name. And and I liked it, and then obviously once you have some kind of, I guess, public present, then it's like, okay, like, then the little things change. But yeah, I try not to expose too much information out there, and it's better.
Yeah, I think that is something that's commonly missing now, and makes it so easy for these hacks to happen. And like Kevin was mentioning with the hedge funds, is really the security awareness training. That's only really taking people so far, and obviously people are always going to be a problem with this, and I think it's just going to get worse going forward with more social media, more and AI and everything. It's just going to continue to compound. So I think it's our job on the defender's side anyway to kind of, okay, just expect somebody to get popped. How do I protect the organization, knowing that Susie is going to get popped? Like, she's going to just assume she's popped today. Like, what do I do to make sure that the attacker can't get around the network? And from a network point of view, there's zero trust technologies, the SASE solutions, there's microsegmentation, things like that. From authentication point of view, there's IAM solutions, there's there's MFA, there's things to kind of keep that from escalating. But yeah, just really kind of making sure that users really have that least privilege, when they don't have overly permissive access, is kind of what I think about. So knowing that Susie's going to get popped, how do I make sure that when Susie does get popped, her user is really useless for the attacker? And I know any foothold is something, and so the attacker is going to be able to do something with Susie. But that's the challenge I think we're, as defenders, we're facing, because even a user without administrative access is valuable to an attacker. Like, you can get on that machine and still do stuff, and still do recon from that machine, using that user. You don't have to be able to install software to be useful. You can live off the land. So from a defender's point of view, when you're red teaming, you're able to run around the network. What are the things that you're thinking, like, hey, they should do better, to protect these users that are so easy to phish and pop and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think, I guess, putting stuff to detect phishing, right? How are you detecting these techniques, right? Are you using DMARC? Are you using some kind of SPF record or whatever? Because I can easily, and I spun it up the other day. I don't know if you know Mailhog. Because if I set up, Go Fish, for an example, let's just use Go Fish. It's super easy. And I can just clone this from GitHub, bum, bum, bum. I can have a phishing campaign in a matter of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? And now if I send it from like Google's mail server or their relay server, I'm going to get blocked, right? They're going to, like you said, pop me, right? They're going to like, fuck off. But now I can use something like Mailhog and I can spoof and I can put it from Kevin at kevtechsupport.com and I can send it to you and it looks like it's come from Kevin, but I sent it, right? So how can we stop that, right? Detecting that and putting those, measures in place and find out, okay, how can we detect these suspicious email domains and putting countermeasures in place, like we were talking about before, stuff like, even from KnowBe4, you have PhishER, you have Cofense. I'm not really a blue teamer, right? So these are a lot of tools that I've just tinkered with. I don't really work with them on a daily, but I'm trying to invade those things, tools. So I'm just trying to think what else.
Funny on the email security side, I find that if there's like a mass phishing campaign, somebody reports it somewhere, like the intelligence of those email security systems will then protect everybody else from that same campaign, and so it becomes effective at scale. But 100% of the time, if somebody is being spear phished and somebody is individually targeted, me, for example, I'm getting targeted constantly. I'm sure other executives are, where it's a custom message. It's not just a mass message to people, but a custom message written for me, with content that's relevant to me, made for me, to trip up me. That gets by almost every one of your standard email security systems, and I mean, more advanced ones like armor blocks, maybe not, because that's kind of using AI to read your email. But ones like advanced threat protection, like Microsoft Defender for 365, stuff like that, it gets through those. Those spear phishing ones get through because it's not something Microsoft's seen before, because it's crafted specifically for me. So it doesn't exist as something malicious out there, like nobody knows about it yet. And I think that spear phishing is going to be really hard without using some kind of advanced technology that actually uses AI to read your email and say, okay, this one's not right. This one doesn't really fit in here. Let's flag this. Beyond that, I think that it's going to be really hard to be effective in stopping that kind of threat, with technology.
Yeah. No, and you're right. And that's why it's just like, and I get this all the time. Like my uncle called me yesterday, and this is true. Like my aunt was like, I think I got a virus. How can I stop this? I'm like, disconnect from the internet, right? Disconnect your router and just never go online. And he goes, oh, there has to be a better way. And obviously I'm a joker, so I can mess with them. But, so I just said, you just have to be careful where you're going. And then okay, how can I then if I set up an Amazon, login page or an Amazon page, and how can we, differentiate a legit one from a malicious one? From the naked eye, from the standard user, you can't. I craft them pretty well. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to clone whatever it is, and it's so easy, right? We can just go to an email, right click, look at the source, take that source, throw it into GoFish, and I can craft it super, super, super cool, right? And obviously there's some ways, right? There's some ways you can go to a little lock, validate the certificate, use that certificate, go to cert or srt.sh, validate the cert for that thing, bop, 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 or SSL checker or whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, we can spoof those. We can do some stuff that we can craft. So I guess as technology and as attacks get better, we just have to, it's going to be a cat and mouse game forever. As long as you're in the game, it's going to be like that. I don't like to say like, oh, we need to get ahead of the game because we're here today. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, you know? So that's just my spiel in it.
Kev, do you have any amazing ideas there? Because I kind of agree. Like, I think I'm just going to be in this cycle forever, just trying to catch up. So
No, I think as humans we are susceptible to human error. We do make mistakes a lot. So like as long as technology is here, cybersecurity is here, and just IT in general is here, someone's always going to be vulnerable to something. You cannot avoid it. It's just bound to happen. The only thing we could do is educate everyone, and that's all we could do. And what Pat said earlier before, right? Like you could have all the bells and whistles and all the cybersecurity layers, but if you don't have education, then what's
hmm
the point, right? You
hmm
just become vulnerable, and they can just attack you and do whatever they want and
hmm
manipulate you and manipulate your account and manipulate you as a person. If you are X, like for example X, like the CEO messages you and you're an admin assistant, and then you're forced to do whatever the CEO is telling you to do because you don't know if that's the CEO or not, right?
hmm
So those things do happen in real life. So you gotta definitely educate everyone.
Yeah, I think that there's uh, we want to do a level of education across everybody, increase that kind of cultural level of cybersecurity at a company, at home. Everybody should just be more aware and more careful and have more of a sense of like being on their toes. But yeah, I think that it's always gonna, all you have to do is be successful on one fish. Like if you're attacking an organization and you try 100 people and one person fails, like you're in. So that's where it's we have to do everything we can to keep up, and that's where it's almost it is a lot of investment in time and energy. It's a lot of education. It's a lot of technology, and it's not being comfortable with where we are. It's so many times I work with a client and they're like, okay, cool. We just got all the stuff. We're good for the next 10 years, right? We're not going to have to spend any more money. And I'm like, no, in 6 months, we might tell you, hey, this other thing you have is no good anymore. It's time to replace it with a technology that's going to be more useful. So that's sometimes hard for businesses to swallow, but it's the reality of technology right now, and especially cybersecurity. As soon as there's a cool technology that we can use on the defense side, it gets twisted and it's being used on the attack side, and as soon as there's and especially AI, LLMs, and everything, like there's tons of ways that is being used already very effectively for initial access brokers and stuff like that to gain access and to networks. So yeah, I think that sometimes it feels like we're being defeated, but it's I know that we can see from the news, like Lockbit, things like that. There are wins that are happening right now. That the good guys are winning some battles right now against big cyber gangs. But it's a constant battle, and just because a gang gets taken down, those guys can just make up a new gang tomorrow. So it's not like it's really a lasting effect. But that's this battle is where we are, and I think one of the things to kind of keep people aware of is that it's not just something between the FBI and like Lockbit. It's something that affects everybody. You can get hit tomorrow. It's nobody is immune to this cyber threat right now, and so a lot of people think they are. It's never coming for them, but from what I've seen, everybody's a target right now. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 110%. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, there's one thing, this is just my advice. Obviously, if you're in cybersecurity, you want to stay up to date with the news, hacker news, and all these little, sites. But like I even tell like my father, I tell my family, don't look at the news, right? Don't watch You know that stuff. It's not relevant to you. You don't have to worry about that. Your crypto wallet getting hacked, whatever everything is going on with the ransomware gangs. Every time you go to, Hacker News or whatever kind of site that you use, it's always a new ransom, like you said, a new gang that's developed and that's writing some ransomware. And this is, it's just like, before this whole ransomware thing, right? Like you couldn't prevent me from going to rob a bank, right? Like you don't know who's the robber on the street, right? Who's strapped up and about to go, mask up and go into the bank, right? Same kind of thing online. Like if you're gonna go to sleep at night thinking about that, you're gonna go drive yourself nuts, you know? So it's like obviously what you have, it's like the locks in the house, right? You have your cameras, you have your locks, you have your deadbolt, you have your gate, whatever you want to do. Like you can't stay up at night with a shotgun seeing if there's going to be a thief coming through, you know? Like you already have all your countermeasures in place. You did all you can, and that's all you can do. That's all you can live with. And if you stress yourself out about everything that's going on in the world, you're going to drive yourself nuts. So that's just always my little spiel. I tell people it's like, don't get caught up on the news, even in like outside the cyber stuff, right? Like this things out of your control. You can't control the uncontrollable. So just fucking stick in your own lane, do your own thing, and that's all you can do.
Great advice for human resilience. That's perfect. It's stop stressing out about stuff that really you can't control. Kev, any last words?
No, it's like I 100% agree with both of you guys. Like you sometimes you can't you can only do so much, and like Pat said, like like don't stress it because like you're gonna really stress yourself out, and at the end of the day, like you can only put so many countermeasures, right? So whatever is there, it's there, and then one step at a time, right? Technology is always changing every day, so like what you said, like there could be a new gang starting tomorrow for all we know, right? We don't know how things happen, right? We don't know. We can't control everything, so it's just a matter of just being secure, but at the same time, you can't be secure 100% of the time. You can only do as much as you possibly can. And it's simple as that. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I really wanted to kind of wrap up the thought of that security testing, including the phishing, everything that we're doing on the offensive side to really, whether it's physical pen tests that the guys were discussing, really, all of that goes into corporate resilience. All of that is a test of your company's ability to withstand an attack, and it really can show your company's ability to bend and flex under an attack, and sustain itself. And sometimes if the red team operation has permission to do it, it can actually show really kind of an impact too. And then you could test how fast your company can respond to and recover from an attack. Let's say a red team shut down some services, something like that. You could actually find out, is your company able to identify how that happened and get back up and running quickly. So that security testing can be crucial in kind of discovering your company's resilience. And all of these other pieces are just layers into that. And when we talk about the email security and the human part and the phishing and everything, it's really the easy way to get in nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
On those attacks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. And yeah, I can, we can keep going, but I know it's almost the top of the hour, and I know you guys have some some stuff better to do, and then looking at my face. But
well, I really appreciate you guys so much, and I'm glad that we were able to get together again, Pat.
Likewise.
And you're always welcome, and I think it's great to be able to chat with you. And Kev is always amazing. I think the energy between the two of you is phenomenal. So but yeah, thank you for your time, and everybody who's listening. InfoSec Pat everywhere. and we'll link everything to him, obviously, in the show. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. This was a great discussion. Please subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. And new episodes will typically come out every other Wednesday. For more information on Airiam, visit www.airiam.com.